You're listening to a KOGO News special report, a year in review and the year ahead in San Diego. Thanks for joining us. I'm Cliff Albert, and on the KOGO News line with us now for this segment is Wendy Patrick, attorney and San Diego State University business ethics professor, a frequent commentator here on KOGO, and we do appreciate that. Wendy, first, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, Cliff.
All right. Well, the new year is going to bring us, as it usually does, new laws that take effect. And there's some pretty unusual and pretty interesting ones. Let's start with the bathroom law.
Right. Well, we've got gender-neutral bathrooms now, and we've got to know what the laws on those say, who can use them, where they are. Employers have to know this. Members of the public have to know this. You know, as we move into 2017, ignorance of the law is no excuse. That's always been true, Cliff, but it is easier than ever nowadays to find out about these new laws so that nobody accidentally violates them or embarrasses themselves because they don't realize that certain things have been enacted. And we're looking at things from gender-neutral bathrooms to beer at the barber salon. You know, only in California, as some of the other states like to say, we usher in about hundreds of new laws every single year, and this year is no exception.
Now, if you're a business owner, and I'm sure we have lots of business owners listening to us right now, they're wondering, okay, how do I find out about all this? What do I do? What would your advice be to them?
You know, it's just so easy to Google these things. You know, we used to have these fancy apps and websites designed to research this and that and the other, and now it's good old Google really comes through to actually be able to hone the search to find out what's been enacted this year and what goes into effect when. That's important, too, because while we have hundreds of new laws, it's true that there are some that don't go into effect immediately January 1st. The best thing to do is actually to look these things up yourself. But Cliff, I want to talk about one of the other ones that's gotten a lot of press, as it should. You know, I think you've heard me before talk about the dreaded DWT, the driving while texting. Mm-hmm. Well, now that law has been expanded in further limiting the kinds of devices you can use behind the wheel. You basically get only one swipe or tap. You don't get to keep fiddling with the device. And that's important because lots of consumers have downloaded these fancy traffic apps that are of enormous value when they're stuck in traffic, as so many of us are, but you can't use them. So again, ignorance of the law, no defense, find out what these are, find out when they go into effect, and keep our streets safe by complying with them. You know, there's no reason not to mount your phone like a lot of people are now doing so that you're not fiddling with it, so that you can actually use voice-activated controls and keep your eyes on the road.
And obviously, that's been such a big problem in terms of texting and using your phone. And there are laws, as you said, Wendy. There are existing laws. Now there are strengthened laws. Do you see a time when maybe there will be even more restrictive laws? And some people have talked about an automatic disabling of phones when you're driving.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that, Cliff, because we have heard that trend on the one hand, and on the other hand, we're talking about driverless cars. So whichever way you look at it, there is a premium put on the value of being able to drive completely non-distracted. I mean, we used to joke that driving while tired is going to be a crime one of these days. But it's all true. Is you look at the amount of things that you have to do to keep somebody from using their devices on the road. Laws being enforced are just one idea. And as you mentioned, disabling devices are another, not just asking, as many of our cars do, to confirm that we understand we're supposed to be driving and doing nothing else, but actually making it impossible to drive distracted, at least when it comes to using your devices.
Wendy, what do you think? I mean, we talk a lot about laws and how they impact people, and these laws that go into effect every year, laws designed, obviously, to improve safety, protect people, and that kind of thing. Do they have the kind of respect that they should? I mean, do most people, you think, change their behavior because of these laws? What do you think?
What an excellent question, Cliff. They do if they're enforced. That's the answer. It's no good to have laws on the books if nobody believes that they're ever going to be enforced. What we've seen over the last couple of years is a crackdown on driving while texting, driving distracted, a number of different things that we can do in the car. And that's been a good thing for public safety because, you know, one of the things that people really need to understand is these laws are not just meant to put further restrictions on how fast we can multitask or how productive we are, but to save lives, both the lives of other drivers and our own lives. And understanding that these laws are going to be enforced and the ease with which consumers can look them up and know what went into effect, there's just no excuse for not knowing and not being able to be safe, as is now legally required on our California streets.
And with this new law about not being able to use the apps or texts and mobile programs in the car like that, do you think that car manufacturers have a responsibility to make standard equipment that allows you to use the information hands-free?
Yeah, as a matter of business ethics, many believe that is a wave of the future, is that manufacturers have everybody's always loath to call something a duty, but a responsibility to design cars in a fashion that makes it easy to comply with these new laws. Now, whether that means having an easy-to-mount device in the car, lots of cars already provide lots of built-in gadgets that make it less important that we need to focus on our own. So they are already making it easier for us to drive and having the car have a lot of things voice controlled, so we never have to take our hands off the steering wheel. And that is one of the things that's emphasized in our 2017 new laws, that the exception to a lot of these restrictions is if it's voice activated, then you may be able to use it.
Let's talk about that law starting this year where beauty and barber shops in California can serve free wine and beer until 10 o'clock. Now, that sounds like a great idea, and I imagine there's going to be a lot more time getting your hair done or whatever now. But do you see, for a business owner, a shop owner, something to kind of watch out for?
Oh, you bet, Cliff. And, it's a lot of people are talking about this. What really the law talks about is they can serve small amounts of wine and beer. So it's not a law about tequila shots, as long as it's free and before 10 p.m. Now, this is a privilege that, remember, patrons of things like limousines and hot air balloon rides already had. So it's more of an expanding of what existing laws allowed. But you bet, laws like this will always be subject to potential abuse. And no doubt we'll see cases where a barber cannot serve alcohol to somebody that's obviously inebriated in the same fashion that an airline attendant can't do it, or a bartender for that matter. It'll be, but it's one of those laws that may probably be looked at and watched to make sure that it isn't subject to excesses. But a lot of barbershops and beauty salons have been looking at this kind of thing for years, not to, maybe make it prone to and causing intoxication, but just to bring themselves in line with many of the other merchants that have already been able to do this.
Well, I would imagine a lot more people are going to have their hair trimmed or styled with this new law going into effect to spend more time more frequently. Hey, Wendy Patrick, thanks so much for joining us here on this special program. Wendy Patrick, attorney and San Diego State University business ethics professor, is looking ahead to those new laws we all need to know about here in California. Wendy, Happy New Year.
You too, Cliff.
This is a KOGO News special report, the year in review and the year ahead in San Diego. Thanks for listening. This is News Radio.